from the get-go, from birth, right? So since you'll always fail, you feel the appropriate guilt and shame. And that's the means of their influence and control over you. You've accepted the terms. You've put yourself in bondage. A citizen of the human zoo, like a domesticated animal, you know. And we've already talked about it last year, but part of that domestication means that, you know, part of the whole authority thing is about diet and exercise. We talked about that last year, but that's a big part of it too. You know, you've ever heard of a CAFO, CAFO, confined animal feeding operation? You know, have you ever driven by one of those things and there's like a bazillion cattle in this one little thing, and it's a few weeks or months before slaughter, and they feed them with grains every day so they fatten them up, right?
Like Walmart?
Yeah, yeah, Walmart too. So that's part of it. The human zoo, you could say the human concentrated animal feeding operation, that works. But, like I said, there is valid authority. Authority is a good word, actually. In fact, you should strive to be authoritative. You should strive to be maximally authoritative. But over who? You. And why? Reality. There's two. You know, there's other. There is oops. Sorry. Okay, so valid authority, first and foremost, is reality. You know, I mean, that's what we talked about at the beginning: the sunrise, the sunset, all these existential truths. And there's nothing wrong with taking advice and counsel. That's a social sort of, you know, expertise or authority, as long as you don't have to, as long as you're not forced to. But ultimately, authority is individual, and it's you in authority over yourself. Now, let's contrast. We talked about the Neolithic knowledge base and all of these different things, you know, illusions, deceptions, you know, to keep up the antagonism and everything. So, and it may say, and I talked about the Paleo. It may, on some level, to you sound like I'm some kind of a Luddite or primitivist or you know, glorifier of the primitive. No, that's just the way things are. And we should look back and realize that they were successful, and we should determine why they were successful. They were successful because they dealt with reality, like these people. You know, the people who designed the airplanes and things like that. Do you think they studied social studies? Did they get an art appreciation degree? They may have went to an Ivy League school. In fact, perhaps. They got a degree in chemistry. They got a degree in computer science. They became a coder. They were dealing with reality, just like Paleo man. Let me click down here. Excuse me a second. So, in a sense, the people who do this are like the people who did that. It's just a different scale, but it's the same principle. It's dealing with things as they really are. It's dealing with reality. It's that. 1 + 1 = 2. It's not a matter of opinion. There was no law ever passed that said 1 + 1 shall equal 2. No authority was ever required. No president ever got up and said, I've made an executive order that 1 + 1 shall equal 2. It's not just a truth, but it's the fundamental foundation of all truth, just as Greg's solipsism. 1 is greater than 0 is greater than -1. It's the same sort of thing. So what do you think? What do you think all these would look like if instead of being based on this and on this, they were instead based on that and that? Didn't the Soviet Union produce some really crappy cars? You know what? Trons, yeah, yeah. What was it? The Trabant ideology or something? That was the model number and the model name. Yeah. So what's the church-state domain? Politics, religion, social studies, multiculturalism, liberal arts, and to even great extent history. You know, there's good historians and bad historians. There's revisionist historians, you know. And a good historian uses many, many sources, and it's still, since nobody was really there, it's hard to tell what the real story is. So even to some extent, history is highly manipulated now. And we could probably go on with the list of things there. So, and I've already mentioned this, we'll go through it quick. What's the purpose of all this? The purpose of the whole thing, of the way that they act, and why it's not like technology. Did you catch that when we hit that slide? And remember, technology. And what are we talking about when we're talking about knowledge? We're talking about the quality of the knowledge. The purpose is to support the general political antagonism, because if they've got you all antagonized about one another based on lies and deceptions and delusions, and one more that I'm just going to get to here in just a second, it's coming up next. I love this quote. In fact, every presentation I've ever done in my life starts with this slide, and then I build a presentation around it. The whole aim of practical politics is to keep the populace alarmed, and hence clamorous to be led to safety by menacing it with an endless series of hobgoblins, all of them imaginary. They want to keep you antagonized against each other. You know, as just an aside, you know, I'm a blogger. I'm kind of known as a shit stirrer. You know, I was introduced as Richard Nikoley. My mom has always hated the nickname, but I am known by the nickname in connection in the Paleo movement as Angry Dick. I kind of like it, actually. I called some I used the C word against some particularly awful women,